Ladies and gentlemen, let's talk about a change in supply part deux. All right. Remember, this is dealing with supply and demand, but in this part, we're still dealing with the concept of the seller and the producer only. And also remember that supply is simply the amount of goods and services that is available. That's what supply does deals with is the production. Remember that last time we looked at the law of supply. This is when there's a change in price, a change in quantity supplied occurs. Increase in price, increase in quantity supplied, a decrease in price, decrease in quantity supplied. Why? Because obviously, if I make more money as the price goes up, I can create more and I can create that money, 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 money. So this is a change in price. What we're dealing with here is a change in non-price factors, which the acronym here is RATNS, and that is resource cost, alternative output, technological improvements, number of suppliers, expectations about future price and availability from the supplier's point of view, subsidies and taxes. Remember, non-price issues. It doesn't, regardless of the price, supply goes up and down based on these issues. And we move the whole curve now because remember, movement on the curve is when there's a change in price. Non price factors, we shift the curve right and left. Supply goes up, overall scarcity lessens, prices drop, we shift that curve to the right. Supply goes down, overall scarcity gets stronger, prices start to rise, shift that curve all the way to the left. All right. So we have over here increase in supply, decrease in supply. So we did resource cost, alternative output, and technological improvement in the last section. Now what we're going to do is number of suppliers. Very, very, very easy. The market is hamburgers in Ukiah. Ukiah at first has a Burger King and a McDonald's. Then all of a sudden, Wendy's, Jack in the Box, Bebops, and In and Out open up. What happens? Well, there's an increase in the supply of hamburgers. Prices start to fall. That should make perfect sense. More hamburgers, supply goes up, prices drop. Now, what do we do to get the reverse? Well, in I think 2007, this is our Wendy's. Both of these pictures, the Wendy's that was located over by Lucky burns down, apparently due to some insurance scam. Supply drops, prices overall actually rise because you have one less manufacturer of hamburgers. Supply goes down, prices start to rise. Okay. When you only have a supplier that equals one, there's one supplier actually managing everything. You get what's called a monopoly. That's when a single supplier has the ability to set prices and production in a market. So, this is the town of Mendocino over on the coast back in July of 2021. Price for regular gas was 9.63. Currently prices are 7.30 a gallon. Why is that? Well, they're the only one there, so they can basically dictate what the price of gas is in that town. So you have to make sure that if you are visiting the coast, you're going to pay a higher price for many reasons, one of which there are just not that many suppliers of gas, so prices stay high. So we did our ATN, and now we're to expectations about future price and availability, but now from the supplier's point of view. And this is all about what happens when COVID gets started and people are going bananas about toilet paper and masks and hand sanitizer. What we have is we have prices going up like crazy because demand is going up. What do I do to respond? Well, I think prices are going to be high right now and they're going to actually drop in the future when COVID goes away. So my expectation is the price is going to drop later and it's high now. So what do I do? Change in demand. Okay. I'm watching like, oh my God, I'm a supplier that like prices have to drop in the future because COVID eventually is going to go away. I want to make as much money as I can now. I'm expecting prices to drop, therefore supply more. Same thing with batteries and generators and those kinds of things. When people are freaking out over wildfires and PSPSs and power shutdowns, then I am going to say, oh, right now people are really driving the price of this up. And I think the price is going to drop later on. So, what am I going to do here? I'm going to supply as much product as I can. Again, this isn't because I'm like watching the price rise. What I'm seeing is I think down the road, I expect the price to fall. And so I am pumping out as much product as I can now so I can make as much money as I can now. This is the mistake that people make with like oil producers. Why the oil producers produce as much oil as they can in the summer because they fear in the fall that the price will go down, which is when do expectations for um, producers change as supply drops. And then this is something like, hey, I think I'm actually going to see an increase in different game consoles that I make, like updated versions down the road. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually ease back on because the prices are probably going to rise in the future. So I'm going to ease back on producing things right now because I'm not making as much money. All right. So when you get like a Nintendo Switch, and they're talking about like a Nintendo Switch 2, um, down the road, I think I'm going to see an overall increase in prices of a Switch because it's going to be a different upgraded version. So, what am I going to do to the current version? Because I think prices will be higher in the future and I want to make as much money as I can. I'm going to supply a little bit less. All right. I want to make as much as I can when I think prices are going to be high, not when prices are going to be low. So, that's expectations of future price and availability from the producer's point of view. Next one is the concept of subsidies. A subsidy is simply free money from the government. The government gives certain industries and businesses money so they can have some kind of competitive advantage out there. It is not part of the free market. It actually manipulates the free market and it creates an incentive of the producer to act differently. Obviously, when you give more free money to companies, supply goes up and prices naturally drop. That's actually the whole part of the point of giving subsidies as well. Which two industries actually have the most subsidies? One is agriculture by a long shot. Part of the reason why a lot of our agricultural products are cheap is because of subsidies from the government. Supply goes up. And fossil fuel industry actually still gets a lot of subsidies because oil and fossil fuels are produced in a lot of states that have representation in Congress. And pretty much all studies out there show if you actually eliminated the subsidies on things like fossil fuels, that alternative energies would kick in quicker as substitutes. But government, sometimes government doesn't do the things that's actually most geared towards the free market. Now, saying that reverse, when you take away subsidies, then all of a sudden supply goes down. And of course, we all say that we want to help the environment. When gas prices go up, people get really annoyed. So part of the thing why people often don't want to remove subsidies, besides you're in oil producing states, is if you actually were to get rid of those subsidies, the supply of things like fossil fuels goes down. Therefore, the prices of oil go up and the price of gasoline goes up. And no one wants to see high gas prices. They get really freaked out, which is part of the reason why subsidies for fossil fuel companies also still remain. Okay. So we have our RATNES. Last one is taxes and regulation. Now, I want you to know this taxes and regulation is not on the consumer. It's not like a sales tax, it's not like an income tax. This is actually a tax or regulation on production, on making the good or service, not the actual buying of the good and service. So this is taxes and regulation on production. All right. When you have overall less taxes and regulation, less taxes on regulation, then what you will get is an increase in supply. That's for less taxes and regulation. Because obviously, if I don't have to pay money in taxes, or I have to, put extra things in my factory to make sure it doesn't emit as much pollution, that means I can put more product into or more money into making product or services. So less taxes and regulation on production, then supply goes up, price goes down. More taxes on regulations in production means then supply goes down, price of that item goes up. Um, Again, you know, taxes and regulation aren't necessarily bad. I mean, things like minimum wage would be considered a regulation, but every time minimum wage goes up, understand that overall the supply of that item because I got to put more money towards wages and not making more product. Supply goes down, prices is going to rise to match that. Okay. So there's all our changes in supply, changes in non-price factors, resource cost, alternative output, technological improvements, number of suppliers, expectations about future price and availability, subsidies and taxes and regulation. Again, we're talking about changes in supply, non-price factors of supply.